We are at a point in display tech where gaming monitors are no longer just about resolution or refresh rate alone. It is about how all of it comes together. And this one is a pretty strong example of that shift. This is a 27-inch gaming monitor from MSI built around a QD OLED panel, running at a 2560 by 1440 resolution and pushing up to 280 Hz. On paper, that already sounds like it is targeting a very specific kind of user, competitive gamers who still care about image quality. But the real story here is how it actually feels to use. The first thing you notice when you turn it on is contrast. OLED has always been known for deep blacks, but QD OLED takes that and adds more color volume on top. So you are not just getting dark blacks, you are getting colors that feel more alive without looking artificial. Then you get the motion. 280 Hz at 1440p is one of those combinations that immediately changes how everything feels. Scrolling, aiming, quick camera movements. Everything feels almost unreal smooth. And paired with that near instant response time that OLED is known for, motion blur is basically not part of the conversation anymore. This is one of those cases where specs actually translate directly into experience. Now design-wise, MSI keeps it fairly minimal. Thin bezels on all sides, a clean white finish, and a stand that supports tilt adjustments. It is also VESA mountable, so if you want a more serious desk setup, you have options. Around the back, you get a practical selection of ports including HDMI and display connectivity options, plus the expected power and firmware support features. Nothing flashy here, just functionality. One thing worth talking about is adaptive sync support. It helps keep gameplay smooth even when frame rates fluctuate. So even if you are not constantly hitting that peak 280 Hz, the experience still feels stable and tear-free. HDR support is also here, and while HDR on monitors can sometimes feel inconsistent depending on implementation, QD OLED panels generally handle highlights and contrast better than most traditional LCD-based displays. So bright effects pop, but dark scenes still retain detail instead of turning into a gray wash. For competitive players, this monitor makes a very strong argument. Fast response, high refresh rate, and extremely low input lag feeling. It is built for games where every millisecond matters. But it is not only about competition. Because when you step away from fast-paced gaming and start watching content or doing creative work, the color accuracy and contrast start to stand out in a different way. This is where QD OLED becomes more than just a gaming spec sheet. Now, there are always trade-offs. Burn and risk is something OLED panels still have to deal with over long-term use. And while manufacturers have improved protection features, it is still something to be aware of depending on your usage pattern. Also, 1440p at this size is a sweet spot for gaming, but if you're coming from 4K, you might notice a difference in sharpness in certain scenarios. But for what this monitor is trying to be, those compromises make sense. It is not trying to be a general productivity display first. It is clearly aimed at gamers who want elite speed without sacrificing image quality. And in that category, it performs very confidently. If you are upgrading from a standard 144 Hz or even 240 Hz IPS panel, this feels like a noticeable step forward, not just in numbers, but in how immediate everything responds on screen. That is really the theme here. Responsiveness combined with visual richness. So if your setup is centered around competitive gaming, but you also care about how your games actually look, this monitor sits in a very interesting place right now. Check the link in the description if you want to explore more details or current pricing.